Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
You know, in the early days of the COVID-19 lockdown, I'm talking it was probably March, late March. And there was a lot of uncertainty for everybody. And this is one of these moments, you know, where were you when the lockdown hit? Kind of where were you when JFK got shot, or where were you when the plane struck the World Trade Center? I recorded a video for my entire organization because there was a lot of uncertainty. And I just started the video with a quote from a book by M. Scott Peck, The Road Less Traveled, New Psychology of Love, Traditional Values, and Spiritual Growth. And it was a book that my parents had when I was in high school. I didn't want to read it. They talked about it. I was in high school. Need I say more? But the opening line in the book is, life is difficult. This is a great truth, one of the greatest truths. It's a great truth because once we truly see this truth, we transcend it. Once we truly know that life is difficult, once we truly understand and accept it, then life is no longer difficult, because once it's accepted, the fact that life is difficult no longer matters. And I think that's a great segue to our guest today, Chris Dorris, and he's known as the mental toughness coach. He helps people and organizations close the gap between how their lives and businesses are and how they want them to be. And if you're in business, well, if you're out there in the working world, life is difficult. But Chris has a book called The Book of Mental Toughness Mantras, and he was referred to me, and I've got a copy of his book. And as I'm reading this book in different parts of it, different sections, that quote just kept coming back to me. That's a lot of what your book says, Chris, to me, at least, is that, you know what? Yeah, life is difficult, and we just need to deal with it. And you've got a lot of stuff in here for dealing with life's challenges, if you will. So anyhow, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it, Frank. Thanks for the introduction. Life is difficult, right? Unless it isn't.
Yeah. Now, how did you get into this? I mean,
I was a psychotic golfer.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
that begs a whole lot of questioning.
I could go way back further than that, and talk about my neighbors growing up. It's a long story, but the very brief version is they were really happy people, and I really loved the way they chose to live. So early on, I decided my vocation, the way I'm going to use my life, is to help people choose to experience life well, and to choose high grade states like celebration and enthusiasm, and then all the others like competence and expertise and levity, lightness of being, and all the other states that ultimately help us be great. The better we feel, the better we are, but only at everything and only always. So it started like that, and then, but seriously, the golf thing was true. I ended up I picked up the game like really, really passionately after college, right after college. And I got, I was taking lessons, and I was really committed to it. And I started to get pretty good. And I also started to get pretty psycho. And I thought, and I noticed I wasn't the only one.
Yeah.
Getting elated in one moment and getting completely irate in the next. Like, honest to God, joking aside, traveling virtually the entirety of the human emotional spectrum in a moment's time. And I became very fascinated with that because what I was observing was how I was letting the outer world govern my inner world, like, profoundly. So I got really, really interested in that. And that ended up becoming my damn career. I married my passion for, the human mind and human potential with my passion for sports. I became a sports psychologist, and then it evolved into, a lot of the golfers I was working with, the amateurs, are business people. So then they brought me into their company saying, we need this mental toughness stuff bad for my sales team. And that's the deal.
Interesting. Interesting. For our listeners, Chris, when he was introduced to me by Meredith Bell, who's been on the podcast a couple times, he was like, yeah, I don't know if I fit. And we got on that initial call and I said, I think you totally fit, because I think what people lack more than anything when it comes to building relationships and getting out there and networking is really kind of between their ears, at 6 to 8 inches between their ears. And, so it's, well, and I guess here's another quick story. I was having trouble getting on Zoom for our listeners. Chris knows this. Something was up with my Zoom. I had to reboot. It's time to record, and I'm texting, I'm calling, I'm trying to get a hold of him. He doesn't know me. I don't want to be that guy who's 10 minutes late. And so he calls and I said, yeah, I said, well, how are you doing? Best damn day ever. Now I'm like, my stomach's in my throat because I don't know what's going to happen here. The Phillies, who you're a big fan of, for those who this is we're recording during the World Series. The Phillies got crushed last night.
We got no hit.
Yeah, it's 2-2. The series, which is really how the World Series should be, I guess. And you're like, yeah, best damn day ever. Okay. And so you walk your talk. It's awesome.
Absolutely. I am my first client. I start every day with that. That's actually a decision. It's a ritual. It's written on my bathroom mirror, #BDDLML. So it's my reminder. I don't really need it. It's been there for 2 years. I don't need it anymore because now it's a total habit, but I still like it there. But I go through a practice, which isn't just hokey, pithy nonsense, like happy talk.
Right.
I actually do a ritual. And when you asked me, when I called you after you texted me, said you were having trouble getting on, you asked me, how am I doing? That very moment, when you didn't know this, how could you, right? But you'll know now that whenever anyone asks me that question, in the milliseconds, I'm actually doing internal work. So before you asked me, it may not have been true within me that this is the best damn day of my life. I start the day like that, but I'll forget that. Some stuff will happen, like my Zoom will take a dump, and I'll go, shit, and blah, blah, blah. And now it's no longer the best day of my life. I'm not vibing that way. But your question reminds me, hey, get back up, elevate your state, bro. So you asked me, how are you? Oh, God, thank you. I think I actually said thank you. I do often thank people for asking me. And I mean that because thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
And I love that word, remind. I'm remembering to elevate my mind. So I had it be the best damn day. So however many times people ask me throughout any day, how are you? That's as many times as I'll remember to choose to have it be the best damn day of my life. In fact, we're going to talk about one of the mantras whenever you bring it up that's relevant to that.
Well, the one I was going with, I love this quote, and this was provided to you by Dr. Allison Arnold.
Yeah.
We're always either purifying or polluting the environment with our vibes. I don't know if that was who you were going with, but that's
one of them.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so that's not, and when people talk about vibes, when I talk about vibes, I'm speaking from a scientific perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. They're mechanical devices, measurement devices, scientific apparatus that literally, the thing's called a magnetoencephalograph. Google that. It's kind of funny looking. It's like this big dome around your dome, around your own head. And it measures the frequency of your thinking, which of course the frequency is a vibration.
Right.
So when we're talking about vibes here, we're not talking about, fruity tooty, foo-foo, woo-woo nonsense. We're talking about science here. So the fact that our thoughts, and that machine doesn't touch you. So it's this dome that's like got a lot of space between your head and it, and it's like receptors. So what it's picking up is our emanations. It's our frequencies that we're broadcasting like a radio station.
Yeah.
Or a cell tower. So we're putting it out there and it's being received. So the question is, if we're always vibing, how are you vibing? And is it working for you?
Yeah.
How are you silently and powerfully affecting the people around you? We've all heard it. People say, I get a bad vibe from that guy. And they think they're being metaphorical when in fact they're being very literal, because they are in fact getting a vibe and they don't like it. So the question is, how do you want to feel? And then how do you want to affect those around you? So vibe up is a great mantra to use as a reminder of two things. One, that you can do that we actually don't have to wait for anything. That's the other mantra we'll get to a little bit. We don't have to wait for create the state, don't wait. We don't have to wait for anything outside of us to change before we alter our internal experience, our emotional state of mind. And then secondly, that how we are feeling internally is affecting those around us, whether we know it or not.
Well, I mean, that's what you're basically doing, best day in my life, right? I mean, that's my vibe. It might not have been a millisecond earlier, but I'm back to that.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. There are things, when you're out meeting with people or over Zoom, you do get a sense about people.
And I'm selfish, like in a what I call divine way, like a divinely selfish dude. I want good for me and I want good for the world. So I know that the likelihood of me creating excellence is significantly enhanced when I'm elevating my state. I could go to a grocery store, right? And the people, person's working there and it's a greeting. Somebody said, "Hey, how you doing?" 90% of the time, I don't think they're asking you, I'm really curious, how are you? It's this form of hi.
Right.
Right. But it is a question and I answer it. They asked it. If they said hi, I wouldn't say best damn day of my life. I go, hi. But they said, how you doing? So I'm going to answer. This, as a matter of fact, appreciate your answer. It's the best damn day of my life. I get a lot of different responses, but sometimes it's like, oh God.
Right.
Listen to this whack job. All right, or they roll their eyes. And I don't care. They asked, right? I ain't trying to sell nothing. I'm just answering your damn question. But sometimes the response is cool. We're like, I love that. I don't hear that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like sometimes people say, thank you. Thank you. Thank me. Because it's like a reminder, and I'm not doing it for them. I'm just answering the damn question. But it happens to be a gift to them sometimes because, you know what? That's a great reminder. Because sometimes they'll say, wow, really? I go, yeah. And they go, why? What happened? Because they think something unusually spectacular. Would you have like a baby this morning? Or, did you win the lottery? Sometimes they'll say that. Why? Did you win the lottery? And when they say that, I go, oh yeah, so did you. We all did. Getting into life, the odds are zero.
Right.
Yeah, we won. Winning.
Yeah.
We're in the impossible party, baby. We definitely won the most improbable lottery that there is, which is life. But I'll say nothing needed to happen other than waking up for me to have it be the best damn day. And I'll go, I'm going to steal that. I'm like, do.
Yeah.
This very shirt that I'm wearing, I bought it for a party that my friends had back east this summer. And so it was at the Tommy Bahama store. And I called them in advance to ask them if they had a couple things before I drove over there. And the woman had answered. She said, hi, how are you? I said, it's the best damn day of my life. And she loved that. So we got into it a little bit. It was fun. Then I walk into the store and somebody says, hello. There were no other customers in there. And they said, hi, how are you? I'm like, this is the best damn day of my life. And she goes, oh, it's you.
Yeah.
And then we ended up having this great conversation. I didn't even start shopping for like 20 minutes because I walk over the counter and the three employees and I having this great conversation on how that can be true. And they're like, I'm totally stealing that. And I go, I highly recommend that. Start every day by choosing without waiting to see how anything goes, certainly not waiting for great stuff to occur.
Yep.
In fact, it goes the opposite direction, believe it or not. The more willing I am to elevate the hell out of my state first thing in the morning, the more likely it is to have great things occur because I will be affecting the world differently, vibing up.
Well, that leads into the next, create the state, don't wait. And I'm, again, people are like, yeah, there you go. He's got a coffee mug. People, I'm having a bad day. And, once the holidays are over, whatever. I mean, they keep kicking the can down the road.
Yeah, man. I make fun of phrases like that. People get a little pissed because I get a little aggressive with it, but I don't care. I mean, I'm really committed to just deconstructing the stupid shit that we buy into, like the phrase, I just woke up on the wrong side of the bed. How do you explain what that means to someone that's never heard it before?
Yeah.
Right. So you're going to say stuff like, well, it's a euphemism. There's no actual side of a bed that's in like wrong, but it's metaphorical for I woke up in a bad mood, and it's going to take an uncertain amount of time for that to change, probably for something good to occur. And that's all nonsense.
Well, what I tell people, Chris, is before you interact with people, get your mind right.
Yeah, man.
Right?
Yeah,
you know,
pregame.
and if you can't, don't interact with people. Right? I mean, just don't, if you can't do it. I mean, and
So
there's lots of
vibe up and create the state are very, very, those are really close cousins, right?
Yeah.
As far as the mantras go. But like vibe up, it can be for just for your own self. Say you're spending the whole day alone and you won't even have an interaction with other people, maybe. So vibe up because you can.
Yeah.
Right. And it's healthy. It physiologically is healthy. Vibing down is having internal dis-ease, which leads to disease.
Right.
Create the state, don't wait. Part of the human experience is, Frank, that we've all, and this isn't like bad news, this is the human experience. We've all been conditioned to experience reality in certain ways, and one of the ways is like victims of circumstance.
Yeah.
Like letting the outer world govern the inner world, right? Like letting what goes on in the world govern how I'm feeling. So this create the state, don't wait mantra is about flipping that around. All right. So that mantra is to remind me that, well, in fact, it's true that my outer world is a reflection of my inner world. So whatever I've got going on in my life is the direct result of what I've got going on in my mind. So I don't want to wait. Waiting, by the way, Frank, is the number one mistake that I've witnessed throughout my entire vocation, people making in the pursuit of their desires, putting unnecessary time, like you said, kicking a can, right? Putting everything off, putting unnecessary time in between ourselves and our desires and how we want to feel and who we want to be. So when I say create the state, don't wait, somebody might say, create what state? And I say, I don't care. I don't know. What's the state that's going to serve you now? Like you have access to every single state that there is. So it's like, I don't want to wait. I'm coaching this guy, and he said, we're at the beginning of our relationship, and he said one of the things that he wants to create is $15 million in wealth. I said, that's cool. Now let's do an exercise, because I don't care what people want. I just want them to have clarity on what it is and then have it. But I don't want people waiting until they have these things to feel certain ways. So for example, with this guy, I said, let's do a little exercise here. It's imagery. I want you to fantasize with me. All right, let's just fast forward. You have the 15 million in wealth. It's true now. All right. So now describe what that feels like. And he started to describe it. And he was really like, you could feel his energy really changing. And he was getting pumped, and it was fun. It was fun to watch him too, because he's physiologically, he's getting like sitting up different, it was nice. So I told him that. I said, now, how do you feel right now? He's like, this is amazing. I'm like, be that guy. Be that guy. Don't wait for the 15 million, bro.
Yeah.
Be that guy. And I'll tell you what, you be that guy more. Not only do you not need the 15, you'll still go create it and do it faster.
Yeah.
So create the state, don't wait. People going into a networking event. What state do you want? I don't know. Ask yourself. If I going into it, I met my mentor who changed my life by going to a networking event here in Arizona called the Enterprise Network. And I vibed up beforehand. And I made the decision before walking in. I met a guy named Dr. Richard Gooding, and he felt my vibe. He was very curious about me. And he asked me, what do you do? And I come up with a fun answer. I was elevated. I was needless. I didn't need anything from him. But paradoxically, I decided in advance, I'm here because I'm creating my mentor. I'm manifesting a mentor, a great mentor. It doesn't need to happen tonight, but that's why I'm here. So, he asked me, what do you do? And I told him, I'm a mental coach. I train the brain. I teach people techniques and how to interpret reality powerfully so they get faster to the creation of excellence with less effort. He's like, that's amazing. Like, yeah, it's fun. And I was getting into his world, and he wasn't like, he was older and I was younger, And he wasn't as interested about talking about him that day or that moment.
Right.
He was really more interested in learning about me because he was digging my vibe. And my vibe was two things: enthusiasm for what my truth is. And it was also needlessness. And he knew I wasn't dropping weird elevator bullshit, memorized speech crap. I was sharing passionately without needing anything from him.
Right.
In fact, if anything, I was more prepared to go serve him. So before I walk into that, it was a Phoenix Country Club. Before I walk into that building, I'm in my car and I'm doing a psychological ritual where I'm vibing up, all right? And I'm creating the state. What state? Needlessness, competence, and enthusiasm. When I walk into that meeting with that, my work's done. I just go hang with people.
Yeah. Well, like you said, people are attracted to you then.
That's right. That's always true. That's always needy is creepy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a repellent.
Well, I tell people all the time is, people play the mope card, right? They're mope around like, okay, sympathy's going to do something. And I'll just say, you know what? Yeah, people are okay with that. They feign like they're okay with it. They feign concern. They feign sympathy, empathy, and that's great. But deep down inside, they're like, I want to run like hell, because they don't want to be around it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we all get, like, everybody's on LinkedIn, right? And how many cheesy messages have you gotten from needy people in this last week? Just in the last week, people, they half read. They don't even read anything in your damn profile. They just use these whatever software systems to go find the word coach or something in a profile, and then they send out this bullshit message that's trying to act like it sounds personal. It's just so needy. And once in a blue moon, I'll respond and say, "Is this approach working for you?" Like, honest to God, because if you had done any research, you would see how irrelevant your message to me is.
That's funny you say that, because I had somebody reach out to me this week saying, "Hey, I'm looking to get networked with attorneys," right? I haven't practiced law in 20 years, Chris, right? So I just responded very politely and just said, "Hey, your bot's not working." Now, I'm stealing
that, man. That's nice.
But here's the funny thing. 2 days later, I get a note from him saying, "Hey, you didn't respond to my first note." And I'm like, "Man, your bot is totally broken."
It's so broken.
Of course, then I just
as if I need to, right?
Right.
Who are you, man? Simmer.
I just disconnect with the person at that point.
And that's obviously, that's a fun but very real, example of the creepy nature of neediness. So when we talk about the mantra, create the state, don't wait. Again, it's important to acknowledge two things. One, that we actually do possess the ability to profoundly alter our states in a moment. All we need to do is change our thinking. It doesn't get any simpler than that. So don't complicate it. All right. And then two, just like a master craftsman has a jillion tools, knows them very well, knows when to use them. And being able to use them in certain circumstances has the master craftsman able to build their magic fast and efficiently and beautifully. In the exact same way, emotionally speaking, if we are emotional master craftsmen, then we have access to these mantras, which are tools. So it's like, well, I'll use the mantra to create the state, don't wait. Well, what state? Well, all right, what state or tool will serve me best going into this networking experience? Right. Or into this negotiating phone call, or into this potentially conflictual conversation with my spouse, or into this birthday party. They're all different. Like, what's the one that's going to serve you? Like, if I'm competing match play at the golf club, happy ain't the thing I need. Right. Okay. Joy is not serving me in that moment. I love joy, but I don't need it right there. Right. Okay. So it's like, what are the states? Like I said, when I walk into these networking meetings, that worked, by the way. Just when I met Dr. Richard Gooding, he ended up introducing me. He and I went and played golf one time, and all he did was just pepper me with questions because he was so interested. We did just a beautiful move on his part. And he said, I got your guy. I got your mentor. And then for the last 20 years, my late great mentor, Jim Myers, just passed away a couple years ago, and he changed my life. And he basically verticalized my professional growth curve. So that worked.
Awesome.
And it all comes back to creating the state don't wait and choosing the state to serve you.
We're running short on time. I know we were trying to hit 3 of these, but there was a ton in those 2. I do want to reserve some time to talk about you, what you're doing. Obviously, you have the book of Mental Toughness Mantras. If you want to share a little bit, you have one-on-one coaching, group coaching. I know you get out there and speak. Maybe floor is yours.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. That's very gracious of you, Frank. Thank you very much. Yeah, this book that I just published, it just came out 2 weeks ago, and it's a toolbox, man. It's got 52 of these beautiful mantras that I have been collecting, stealing, creating, co-creating with clients for 30 years. So this is the best thing I've ever done to date. So I definitely encourage people to go get a copy and keep it. It's a reference tool. Right. Keep a copy on your desk to remind you, just flip it open, just randomly open to a different page and find the mantra and read it. They're short. They're 2, some are 1 page.
Yeah. It's 1 minute reading. Yeah,
exactly. Right. Okay. And it's profound, short and concise. So there's that. And that's on Amazon, the book of Mental Toughness Mantras. And then, connect with me. I put out a ton of content. Right. And I very rarely, I'm not selling anything really. I'm making an announcement like I have a new book or something. So, but I just, my content is my legacy, man. So I take that real serious, and I create a lot of content. So I've got a lot of free goodies. So if you go to my website, ChristopherDorris.com, and my last name is Dorris, ChristopherDorris.com, you can get on my list and get all the goods. One of the things, the second best creation of my life after this book is called The Daily Dose. So every morning around 6 a.m., wherever you are in the world, you get on my daily dose list, then you'll get an email from me 365 days a year, something that you can, mental toughness tips in 30 seconds or less. Honest to God, I spent a whole lot of time taking these mental toughness concepts like the ones we just talked and reducing them down into digestible, consumable nuggets that you can really get in less than 30 seconds. And then you'll get one every morning to help you vibe up, to help you first thing.
I will put that in the show notes, your web address, Christopher Dorris, Dorrris. I'll put that in the show notes. And I'm going to sign up. I don't know if you'll see it, but that's my commitment to you.
I will see it.
All right, good. All right, well, good. Well, good. I'm going to, as this is kind of rendering off of Zoom as it does, I'm going to take action on this because
Amen.
As I started this, life is difficult, right? And you just have to accept that. But you just need to work through it. These are just great things to help us work through it. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Frank. Thanks so much, man.
Go Phillies.
Attaboy. Thank you. Go Phillies.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.